All right, let's get right into it. For decades, the world has been fighting a war against the biggest known causes of lung cancer. But what if the battlefield itself is changing right under our feet? We're about to break down a massive global study that tracks this fight for 30 years. And honestly, the results reveal a pretty fascinating and frankly worrying twist. So, it all boils down to this one question. Are we actually winning the fight against the biggest respiratory risks out there? You'd think it's a simple yes or no, but as this huge study shows, the answer is way more complicated than that. And this is where it gets really interesting, because the answer is kind of both yes and no. See, on one hand, the overall health burden from these risks, it's going down. That's a huge win, no question. But when you look closer, like the study did, you see that one of these threats isn't just sticking around, it's actually getting stronger. And this chart just lays out that paradox perfectly. The data shows that between 1990 and 2019, the total health burden from all these major risks fell. Fantastic news. But then you look at that second bar. The burden from just one of those risks, outdoor air pollution, actually went up by 0.6% every single year. It's a clear and pretty concerning counter trend. Okay, now before we go any deeper, let's quickly get on the same page with a key term. When the study talks about health burden, they're using a metric called a daily. All you need to know is that one daily equals one lost year of healthy life. It's just a really powerful way to measure the true human cost of a disease. The other term is SDI, the Socio-Demographic Index. This is just a simple way to group countries by their level of development, from low to high. And this is super important because, as you're about to see, a country's SDI level completely changes its story in this fight. All right, so let's meet the four main characters in our story. These are the four big risk factors the study zeroed in on. You've got smoking, secondhand smoke, household air pollution, that's stuff like cooking with wood or coal indoors, and finally, ambient particulate matter, which is just the sciencey name for outdoor air pollution. So let's see how this actually plays out, because this isn't one single global story. Nope. It's really a tale of two very different worlds, where the battle lines are drawn by a country's level of development. Let's start with smoking. And wow, this just perfectly illustrates the divide. In the wealthiest, highest DI countries, the health burden from smoking has been dropping by almost 1.7% every year. I mean, that's awesome. Decades of public health campaigns are clearly working. But then you look at regions like East Asia, and the burden is actually increasing by over 0.5% each year. They're fighting two completely different battles. We see a similar, though maybe less traumatic, story with household pollution. Now, everyone is making progress here, which is great to see. But just look at the difference in speed. High SDI countries have seen a massive 8% drop every year as they switch to cleaner cooking fuels. Meanwhile, in low SDI countries, where solid fuels are still pretty common, progress is just much slower. So what this all boils down to is that there is no single, simple story here. The progress we've made on these traditional risks, like smoking and indoor pollution, it's all highly dependent on how wealthy a country is. But all of this is just setting the stage for the most universal and most alarming trend of all. And that brings us to the risk factor that breaks the mold: outdoor air pollution. This is the new front line in the war on lung cancer, and it's where the story really takes a dark turn. Let's just put that number up again and really let it sink in. For 30 years, while we were making progress in other areas, the health burden from outdoor air pollution got worse. Not just in a few places, but on a global average, it rose by 0.6% every single year. And what's so wild about this table is how clearly it shows who is and who isn't able to fight back. Only the highest income countries saw any decrease in the lung cancer burden from air pollution. For every single other group, that's 4/5 of the world's countries, the problem got worse. And it was actually the middle income groups that got hit the hardest. And to make this even more real, just look at the extremes. The single biggest annual increase was in Equatorial Guinea, with a staggering 9% rise per year. Meanwhile, the country that made the most progress on this specific risk was Finland. It's just a stark illustration of the global disparity. And if we zoom out to the regional level, the hotspot for this growing threat was Western Sub-Saharan Africa. The health burden from air pollution-related lung cancer there grew more than 6 times faster than the global average. Just incredible. So, what do we take away from all this data? This isn't just about lung cancer, you know? It's about a fundamental shift in the challenges we're facing in global public health. The researchers themselves really hit on this disconnect. We know for a fact that controlling air pollution has a massive positive impact on both health and the economy. But in their own words, they conclude that the importance of air pollution issues has been largely ignored in the very places where this crisis is now growing the fastest.
So here's the story in 3 simple steps. First, we are winning some of the old battles, especially against things like household pollution. That's great. Second, a dangerous new front has opened up, with outdoor air pollution becoming a major driver of risk. And third, and this is maybe the most important part, this new battle is being fought on incredibly unequal terms.
And that leaves us with one last crucial question. The world has proven it can tackle major health risks when it really focuses its attention. But as we get better at fighting the enemies of the past, are we actually prepared for the threats of the future?